What's up, everybody? It's your girl Mika. You're back for another Red Cup Talks. And you know, when we got the red cup, we're about to spill some truth. But today we're going to talk about Black women and the liberal agenda. And the reason why we're going to talk about it is because, of course, Kamala Harris is, quote unquote, the Black woman running for the Democratic ticket. The Democratic Party has prided itself on identity politics, right? So, what I wanted to really discuss today is the fact that not all Black women or women in color are liberal. And the liberal agenda just goes to speak to certain topics and certain talking points that not all Black women or women of color actually speak to. But I wanted to have another conservative voice. So I'm going to bring up my guest for today. Hi, Cam.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. So I was just telling the audience that I really wanted to talk on this topic because there's so much going on with Amber Rose, of course, the usual suspects, Candace Owens, who the liberals hate. But yeah, those women, I just feel like are particularly, hot topics right now because Amber Rose switched from really being a liberal to being more conservative. And we'll talk about that a little later. Candace Owens has been in it for a while, but she was a liberal at first. So you have that. And then you have a kind of a newcomer to the scene. Her name is Michaelah. And Michaelah popped on the scene really with Trump at the Chick-fil-A. I don't know if you know the
Oh,
Chick-fil-A
okay.
story.
Yes. Okay, I didn't know her name.
Yes.
Okay.
So she's getting, a lot of praise, but a lot of hate as well.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that as well. But I just wanted my audience to know a little bit about you, Cam.
Okay. So I kind of had like a similar Candace Owens experience when it came to politics. I used to be very hard blackety black, very much like pro black. And then I kind of went to my first DNC debate. I went to the DNC debate that was in Houston in 2019, and I went to that, and it changed my perspective on everything. I saw a lot of things, heard a lot of things that I didn't agree with, core values wise that I didn't necessarily agree with, that I realized I didn't agree with. And then after doing my own research and looking into, like conservative values and things like that, it kind of aligned more with what I wanted for myself and my family long term. So it kind of was it's been a journey, definitely, kind of lost my black card and, been called like,
And they
brainwashed.
swear there's one. They swear there's one to be lost, but for somebody like me, I guess I really never had it.
Look, I'm like, I don't, at this point, I don't even know if I want to be a part of the people giving them out. So it's fine,
Exactly,
so
exactly.
I kind
Because the culture, I look at it this way, right? The culture that they, make you seem like you want to be a part of is really not, to me, is
of,
not Black culture,
no,
right?
it's, yeah,
Black culture, and especially with me being in music and entertainment, right? Black culture embodies all of the spectrum of the culture, right?
right.
However, I feel like we only focus on the most vibrational point of
Yeah,
culture.
absolutely. Hmm.
And to me, that's pushed every day, all day. And it is a part of the culture, right? But it's only a small aspect of the culture. Like everything else gets overlooked.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
It's hard for me to say that it gets overlooked because sometimes like when people say, there's certain stereotypes against us as a community, it's like, are they really stereotypes, or is it just a negative perception that's true and we just don't want it to be true? So I think, unfortunately, I think we do have more of a culture of like negativity of celebrating the wrong things. Like I was on TikTok last night, and I thought it was kind of crazy. Like personally on my own feed, I follow a lot of like homemakers, a lot of wives, a lot of like, you know, moms with littles and stuff like that.
The trad wives, is that what
Yeah,
they
yeah, I guess like
have?
some trad wives, but just kind of like family oriented women and things like that. And I had, you know, a video had popped up like a black single mom, and she's got like 7 children behind her, and they're like doing this trend of like the attitude and walk type of thing with her 7 little girls. And you know, they are clearly not in the best of conditions and things like that. And then literally all in the comments is just like, you're a super mom, you're doing it all, you're doing great. But then it's like when I see on these like women that are married, or you know, they're family oriented, or talking about, you know, like the back to school haul they're doing for their kids or something like that, people are shaming them in the comments for either having the money to spend on their kids, can't believe you, and you know, there's kids starving and you're taking your kid to Lululemon, how dare you. And it's like they get so much hate and vitriol and like,
Yeah.
you know, so much condemnation towards them, when it's like y'all don't do that and keep the same energy. So I kind of just see that in the culture as a whole, people don't keep the same energy for the stuff, in my opinion, that like matters for the
Yeah,
positive. Like,
I agree. They definitely don't keep the same energy because I have my Red Cup podcast up, right? And there's a short I have that we did for Father's Day, right? So it's only talking about men. It's only talking about fathers, right? No lie. The short says uh single dad homes, you know, fare better and almost similar to two parent homes.
okay.
You would think that would just be, you know, something nice. It's literally like maybe 30 seconds.
Right.
Oh my God. The comments are nuts. If it's not, what are you talking about? It's misinformation. Of course the dads are doing better. They get help. Like every woman in the world, all the pick me's want to help them. They offload their kids on their moms. I'm just like,
It's
this was
always
a
something.
positive post.
It's all like, and that's what I mean. Like even with like active dads, like when I see like on social media active fathers, there will be women and their comments are just filled with, make sure you don't leave her, dad, make sure you stay in her life, or you know, it's like comments that insinuate he's gonna go somewhere or something. And it's like, this is a whole married man playing with his daughter, and he's just trying to show a video of him being an active dad. And literally the comments are just like at him about like, again, like insinuating he's gonna leave, or like, you know, this is what we need, you know, hope you're doing this with all, hope you're, you know, telling your friends to be this guy. And it's just like, why can't y'all just see somebody, anybody doing good and positive and just praise that? But it's like always having to bring in some type of like negatives or something to like
Mhm.
make the other person feel better. And it's like, this is why we
Right,
can't put it anywhere.
right, and that's how I kind of feel some of the times, right? And or you kind of feel I don't do it, but it almost makes you want to like walk on eggshells because you know that this group is going to get so offended. And honestly, maybe some years ago I used to, right? I would say little things, but I didn't want to be like so out front with it
Right.
because I knew pretty much I was the maybe only person or and only woman of color that thought like I did, you know, thought more towards the conservative side, even being in music and R&B, rap, and all of that. I still had more conservative views. I still wouldn't do certain types of, you know, music all the time, right? And that I would say that is a part of the culture that, you know, in the entertainment sphere at least, that bothers me because it's like, are you saying that as a woman of color, that's the only way I can express myself, right? Through, you know, all of that. So, you know, it's hard, but I love music. I love entertainment. So I, you know, I get through it, but it's definitely hard when you are not very liberal.
Yeah.
So what I wanted to focus on first, I wanted to run a little clip really quick. It's a short, but we always hear liberals talk about Malcolm X, especially liberal Black women. And they always talk about Malcolm X being a man who talked about Black women being unprotected. So I wanted to run something about the liberals.
But you never see them going under the label of liberals. There are many whites who are trying to solve the problem, but you never see them going under the label of liberals. That white person that you see calling himself a liberal is the most dangerous thing in the entire Western Hemisphere. He's the most deceitful. He's like a fox, and a fox is always more dangerous in the forest than the wolf. You can see the wolf coming. You know what he's up to, but the fox will fool you. He comes at you with his mouth shaped in such a way that even though you see his teeth, you think he's smiling and you take him for a friend.
So when I heard Malcolm X's speeches, one, I really think that if Malcolm X was probably alive today, he would be considered like ultra conservative, Uncle Tom, because some of the stuff that Malcolm X talks about is some of the stuff that a lot of conservative people talk about today, right? Education for Black people and people of color, how to dress, things like that. And with the whole being liberated now, a lot of that would be seen as, the man trying to control the woman and women should be liberated. What did you think about his comments?
It's funny. I saw that prior, and I feel like history just keeps repeating itself, like we've had so many times in history, where these men specifically in power have spoken up about these things, and then to my knowledge, he was assassinated a year after that video was taken. And so it's just like they don't want anybody out there that is thinking different, because they know that if we as a people and as a community were to wake up to the ploys and the plays that are being put in front of us, things would be different. But just like what I've had conversations with people before, it's like there's like a big mental disconnect when it comes to Black people and the Black and brown community and voting Democratic. Like they see it as like the party that's helping them because of things like government assistance and public health and things like that, but they're not understanding that these things were originally meant to be, more of like a crutch to help you get up, and now it's more so been something that has hindered you and kept you in the same place. And it's just like, y'all are fighting for things that are really continuing to keep us down. And I feel like that's kind of where he was, kind of alluding to, is like, if you guys don't keep waking up to the fact that there's literally a fox or whatever in your face, playing in your face, then we're just going to continue to get duped and get used, because it's like you can't wake up and see that, just like with the Donald Trump thing, it's like, would you rather somebody that's honest and upfront with you, even if you don't like how they say it, or would you rather the person that can't even be honest enough to, even just attack that point, or even, comment on it? Because that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, that's my one thing I go to all the time, right? I tell people all the time, okay, you don't like Donald Trump. I don't even try to argue what's real, what's not real. I meet them where they are. I'm like, okay, you don't like Donald Trump, fine. But did you actually listen to what he said? Regardless if you don't like him, did you actually listen to what he said? And then did you actually look at any of the policies or listen to any of the policies and, see how it benefits maybe you personally, and then the Black community as a whole, the Latino community as a whole, and really all Americans, honestly. But they never do. They're like, I don't want to hear what he says. I don't like him. He's abrasive, and he's nasty, he's rude, he lies. That gets me all the time. When they start he lied like 20 times. I'm like, okay, what did he lie about? Because I'm confused. Like, what did he lie about this time? And they're like, oh, he just said a bunch of lies. And like, how do you get them that quick?
there's never anything like factual. Like, again, even like with Candace Owens, like people will say stuff like that about her, and I'll be like, okay, but when I say stuff like, okay, well, she's also said too, the first step as Black Americans and us getting out of this like victim mentality and to be better is to stop like identifying ourselves as Black Americans and just identify as Americans. Like, we should just be identifying as American people. And I agree with that. I think that the fact that we can understand as Americans that we're the only country that identifies by race the way that we do, that should be an identifier and a red flag in our minds. That's like, okay, maybe we do need to start from the very bottom and unpack this and start from, an identity place with it. You know what I'm saying? We do need to just start, in my opinion, kind of like not disassociating from the title of a Black American, but just not making it our identity, because it just seems like, in these conversations, when we talk about politics, when we are talking to other Black people that may have more of a liberal point of view, they make it seem like we are just in this alone, we're by ourselves and all these things. But it's just like, if you look outside, this country is mixed. Like, the entire country is mixed up. So it's hard for me to get on board with things that people say a lot of the times when it comes to these liberal policies and the things that affects our community, because I'm just like, from a larger standpoint, I'm not seeing what they're seeing, and I'm not seeing it from the positive that they're seeing it either. Like, I'm seeing more negative. So
yes, I agree 100%. I think we need to get away from, and I understand what they're kind of using Black as, they're using it as like an ethnicity, right?
Yes.
To kind of like an identifier. However, the more in this country you use race, you kind of stay in the identity politics.
Exactly.
Right? Versus getting down to like what your actual group really needs, what it should be focusing on. And I'll say this all the time, because growing up, of course, I'm a mixed race person. Growing up in a mixed race household, I never heard Black or white, right? Nobody called each other, because everybody's in there is mixed, right? Except for the parents, grandparents, people like that. Everybody else is mixed up. So we never identified that way. Even living here in America, we never identified that way. And then when you go outside, you're forced to identify, well, how do you identify with this? How do you identify with that? Well, I identify with my I guess quote unquote white side doing this. I identify with my Cuban side doing this. I identify with my Native American side doing this. So now I have to race bait. I have to do all these things to, identify, well, which one you like more, which one are you down with more? Like, all of these are me. I'm an American. Why can't I just be that?
Absolutely. Yep. And that's
So
what I feel like, yeah.
And America, it really is a melting pot. So if it really is a melting pot, and what I hear from a lot of Black Americans a lot of the times is, well, all of us are mixed. Okay, well, if all of us are mixed, then why are we sitting here talking about identity politics like this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And the person that's running is quote unquote, even though I don't believe it, but I'm gonna let it go, because I think focusing on it keeps her from having to answer about policies. But I do not, and I repeat, I do not believe that woman is a mixed race Black person.
Yeah.
But never, here or there.
Yeah.
She quote unquote identifies as such. So okay, so if she is, then now we need to have the conversation about, okay, what then are you going to actually be doing that identifies with the economic growth of Black and brown people? What are you going to be doing that can stimulate that economy personally? Meaning, like, you have the whole country, but each group here in America literally has their own economics, right? They have like the Jews have it. Black Americans do have it. We just don't keep the money in house.
I mean, I feel like so she has already said that there are like videos of her like when she was running in 2019 of them asking her, specifically for the Black community what she would do, and she said she wouldn't do anything because in her mind she believes that we're all Americans, so one policy for one should help everybody in her eyes, but then she backdoor has policy ideas for what she wants to do for migrants and immigrant children and their families. So I think that I don't know. I think that people kind of just, it's unfortunate because it doesn't look like they're gonna like wake up to any of the facts of the videos that have been presented to them. It just seems like more so of an emotional game right now. Even to the fact again, like Donald Trump is supposed to be racist, but his vice president pick is married to an immigrant. He's married to an Indian woman.
And married to an Indian woman.
That's
yes,
what I'm saying. So
right?
it's just like, I mean, he can't be too racist, but I mean, I guess like,
I mean, I
it's
say
always
that
kind of
all I say that all the time. But me personally, when it comes to racism, and if I had to say who would be the fox, and this was the reason why I played Malcolm X, because liberals are so good, meaning white liberals are so good at kind of being covert. So they mask things behind, I care about minorities and I want to give you opportunities, but it's never an opportunity where you can surpass them. It's always an opportunity where you can get just enough. And, I helped you get it, kind of like a pet. I helped you get it. I gave you a treat. You were being good, nice, but it's never nothing where you can actually create whole economies like they were doing before. Like in the Reconstruction era, right? If people right out of slavery can do it, we're way ahead with technology and no lynchings, no things like that. You understand? So I'm just like, why can't we do that now? What's blocking it now that people from slavery times, coming out of slavery, are able to create these big economical machines, different cities, Tulsa, Detroit, like a lot of cities were built off the backs of those people coming from slavery, first generation.
See,
So
I think
go ahead.
that I think it's a work ethic thing. Like, I don't think that today, I think today people that have like that strong go-getter entrepreneur, work hard, play hard until I achieve my goals. I think that mentality today in our community is a rarity. And I think back then everybody kind of had that same understanding and mindset of like, no, we're gonna like work hard, do what we have to do, sacrifices are gonna have to be made because of the end goal, because they knew what they were fighting for and kind of what they were, that light at the end of the tunnel. But I think because now today we and people will say they don't see that, but we have what they fought for, you know what I'm saying? The opportunities to get onto a level playing field, the opportunities to be great. And I think that a lot of Black people were under the impression that it meant closing the gap and not having any type of displacement or any type of competition or gap with other races, or specifically with white people in the white community. And I think that you just have to understand that our game is going to be a long game. Like, it's just going to be a long game. You have to understand that. But in understanding that, it would mean that we have to do things like and And again, I think it's subjective to how you want to create your success, but marriage, getting married first and things like that, like certain foundational things we don't have today in mass. And I think back then, obviously, our marriage rates were higher. Like, I think that when you had those familial things back home and home was good, you were able to be more successful in the in the outside world and stuff like that. So I think all of these things in conjunction with each other play a part in your success. So I just think that as a community now, we don't share the same values. We don't all share the same end goal anymore. And because of that, now we're divided, and a half of us that, is more like, let's not, it's not forget the past, but it's like, can we move on from the past so that we can be better? And then there's another half of us that's like, no, how can we be better if we don't talk about the past? How can we be better if we don't keep,
Right.
the past in front of us? And it's just like, this is, it's like a constant cycle now that we're fighting as a community. Because again, it's like, we can't ever get better or be better, get to a place, where people, talk about these Black Wall Streets and stuff like that. Well, that starts with us being able to have credit to get those things, but most of us don't have the credit to get those things. So it's kind of like, breaking it down all the way to the very, very, very basic cellular level of why we are here. But most people will kind of want to bring that back to like a white man thing and stuff. But it's like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
can
and
only give
I
white men
agree.
so much power. You can only give
I
them so much
agree. I
power.
said that I was talking earlier, and I said that. I said, for some reason, and this is just how I feel,
Mhm.
I do understand, that there were things that were in place, right? Redlining
Right.
and other factors. And there still are little covert things, which is
Yes.
something things we're going to get into with the liberal agenda. But I feel like for the most part, you can get ahead. And so with that being said, like, to me, a lot of the community doesn't try. Like, they don't even try. They figure, hey, I can only get but so far, so I'm not even gonna, I'm not even gonna try. I'm not even gonna do this. And to be frank, the liberal agenda teaches them that.
Yes. Yeah.
When there are plenty of avenues that you can get out here and make money, especially now. Like, everything is direct to consumer. If you want to talk to people, you can get on YouTube and other platforms, Kick, Twitch, all these other platforms, and just talk to people, no matter what it is. Because I've seen the wildest stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, you can go direct to consumer. You can do it with music. You can just sell directly to people, right? You don't need a record label per se. You can sell music. You can write for other people. You can write for TV shows. Like, they have all that, like, direct now. So I'm just like, if you have like a drive, there's no way you can't make money for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I agree, but I think that's the caveat, is that most people, I don't think they have the drive or even like an idea of like what they want to do or a passion. Because like, when we, I'm sure you've seen like videos on social media of like people talk about the job market and how they can't find a job, been unemployed, 6 months, a year plus, and they can't find a job. And then we get into the conversation of it, and it's like, okay, well, you have a master's or a PhD in psychology or communication or business, or something that, in my opinion, isn't conducive financially, one, to be getting $100,000 debt for a degree like that. But when you ask them, and I've asked too, like, well, what did you plan on doing with that degree anyways? Like, even just pre-graduation, what was the idea when we were in college? And they never know. Well, I just planned on, I just thought I was going to get my degree and get a great job and da 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 da. But nobody ever had any career aspirations or career goals. It's like they got the degree and the degree was the goal, but
And that's how they got the debt, because
yeah,
everybody told them to just go to, especially what we're talking about today, Black women, right?
Yeah.
So they tell you in school, go get a degree, especially like our generation, right?
Right.
Millennials, Gen Z, go get a degree. get a degree in what? Now they just go get a degree. They haven't checked to see if this is actually a market that is thriving, to where you can actually get a job in that field. And if, that job is, the type of income you would want to be making.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they don't talk about that at all. But I want to get into our first topic here.
Okay.
We were talking about Donald Trump, and the talk of the last couple of weeks has been a young lady named Michaelah Montgomery. Michaelah Montgomery, if you don't know, she was the young lady who hugged Donald Trump at the Chick-fil-A, and it went viral. I mean, I'm glad it went viral, but I'm not even sure why it went viral. It's just, a young lady hugging the president of the United States.
Did she like scream or something? Is she like crying?
No, she just she literally just asked for a picture.
Oh.
And so it went viral. But apparently the backstory is she has an organization, and she works with a lot of conservatives, Black conservatives. She's a part of Brexit, and
I am
down in Georgia. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And she kind of put that meeting together to come to the Chick-fil-A from my understanding. And when Donald Trump came in, she asked for a picture, and it went viral because everybody was just like, oh my God, why does this Black woman want a picture with Donald Trump? And I was just like, he's the president? I'm confused. So with that being said, she went viral, and flash forward, she spoke at Donald Trump's rally down in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And I thought she did a really, really good job. She seemed genuine. She was hype,
Yeah.
She was real hype, which is good. It's a rally,
Absolutely, yeah.
Really hype, but it was hype in a good way, right? It wasn't how we have to always portray Black women. So I really liked it, but she got backlash for that.
Yeah.
And now she's contributing on different news networks, but she went on CNN. I'm sorry, not CNN. She went on C-SPAN, and she had an interview there. She's commentating, talking to the host. And what ends up happening is they had callers call in, and these were some of the rudest callers I've ever seen in my life. Okay. And I do mean some of the rudest callers. And I'm almost for certain if she was liberal, they wouldn't have let these calls fly, right? But I'm gonna play one of the calls that I just thought was terrible. I don't even know why C-SPAN let this play, but I thought the call was terrible because of how he was speaking to her. And any other time, oh, you can't speak to a woman like that. You can't speak to a Black woman like that. But this was allowed to fly. And I think it was sincerely because she's conservative. So I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then we'll come back and you can tell me your thoughts.
Sam in Rome, Georgia, Democrat. Hi, Sam.
Hi, good morning. And I have a question I want to ask her first. And then if you will indulge me, I do have a comment I'd like to make after I hear her question, her answer to my question.
Sure, go ahead.
Before we get into it, too, remember she did all that complaining about the lack of education, but we also have a Republican governor here who had a hand in that as well. So it goes both ways. Anyway, I want to ask her, she touts herself as a smart person, so let's test it. What is the mitigating factor that made the Democratic South turn over to the Republican Party? And I'm waiting for your answer.
What made the Democratic South turn over to the Republican Party?
What is the mitigating?
I don't know what answer you're looking for, and I wouldn't know how to answer that. But I can say, again, I only speak to my personal experiences, sir. So for people to question my intelligence as if my life is somehow invalid is very interesting to me.
So Sam, go ahead with your point.
Yes,
I believe you're talking about the Civil Rights Act.
The answer to the question is the Civil Rights Act.
The same
to
Civil
vote
Rights
the
Act that was
act that
authored
ga-
by Republicans? Okay.
Can I finish, please?
Mhm.
Okay. The act that gave you the right to sit in the chair that you're sitting in right now and vote. People in the city that you just moved into 10 years ago died for that cause. There are people still fighting for that same cause as
In
we
America?
speak. That in America, they were in the southern part of this state to which I live and I love. They caught people trying to fake the electors in this state in the Republican Party.
We also caught illegals with IDs and trying to vote,
So
but I guess we won't
if you
acknowledge
will
that.
if you will look at the history to which I'm sure you claim to know or you do know the history of your state, you should be aware that people have died for the cause to vote. And now the people that
also
are
died for the cause for us to read.
Hold on, Kayla. Let him finish.
May I finish? If it's okay. Your mother should have taught you a little better than to interrupt.
All right, Sam, just go ahead and
Thank
finish
you.
your point.
Thank you.
But the people that have died for this cause are still fighting for the same cause. Now, it's okay if you want to be Republican or Democrat, but not these Republicans. They are of a different ilk. They're of a different structure. They are the same structure that left the Democratic Party to come to the now Republican Party. And that's my comment.
All right,
Thank
Sam.
you.
Go ahead, Kayla. All right, so let's start with the 1964 Civil Rights Act, or the Voting Rights Act, correct? That was all a ploy by Lyndon B. Johnson to get Black people to support the Democratic Party for the next 200 years. And unfortunately, the tactic worked because, much like you heard our caller say, they're still fighting for the right to vote. There's not one American citizen without a felony who does not have the right to vote. All you need is an ID and you can go vote. He also didn't acknowledge the fact that while he's saying we had fake electors, we also had fake citizens going to vote in our elections. So, of course, I guess we just won't talk about election integrity in that sense. Next, the ploy to get Black people to vote for them for the next 200 years was a fear tactic because, again, Black people then thought that if they did not vote Democrat, they would lose their right to vote. And even though Ronald Reagan came in and didn't take away Black people's right to vote, for whatever reason, Democrats every election season get up and talk voter suppression, protect your right to vote. Black people died for the right to vote. Black people also died for the right to read. So I wish a lot of you would please go read the Willie Lynch letters. I wish a lot of you would go read more about Jim Crow and how, the systems were set up to basically make us believe that we were victims for the rest of our life. So now let's talk about the migrant issue and how it relates to the 1964 Voting Rights Act, correct? The Voting Rights Act was put in place so that Black people would be a loyal Democratic voting base. Black people are now leaving the Democratic Party.
Kayla, you're saying that the only reason the Civil Rights Act was passed was for votes?
No. The major portion of said legislation was the fact that it gave Black people the right to vote, right? And Democrats touted the fact that they gave Black people the right to vote. They then used fear-mongering to make Black people believe that if they did not vote Democrat, they would lose their right to vote and whatever other rights and resources that were granted to them by these Democrats, correct? Now that you see Black people leaving the Democratic Party, now that you see Black people calling out the Democratic Party, now that you see Black people tired of living in the same conditions that they were in when the bill was signed, they no longer have that loyal voting base. So you know what they're doing now? Now they're opening the borders. They're letting these migrants in. They're giving them these welcome packages full of food stamps, housing assistance, whatever else, that housing and clothing and whatever else it is maybe that they need in order to come over here and live comfortably. Why? Because now when you have these illegal migrants coming over here, and it's clear that the Republicans are like, no, get them out. Now you have a new loyal voting base who's like, oh God, if we don't vote for the Democrats, we're not only going to lose our right to vote, but we're possibly going to lose our citizenship as well. It's never been a thing where we're going to do this for the betterment of the Black community or the Latino community. It's always been, we're going to do this so that we can stay in power and we're going to manipulate the masses into believing that we are for them. And even though they will continue to vote for us, we will never do anything for them, but we will play on their feelings for stuff that we did 60 years ago.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a lot. That was a lot. Like,
that made me mad for her.
Yeah, that made me extremely mad, right? Because when I looked at it, right, I was just saying, okay, this is supposed to be a call-in show, right? But they not only let the callers drag her, and she had to sit there and take it. A lot of the callers were just calling in to just tell her basically that she's a traitor, she's a sellout, things like that. And I'm just like, it's funny because this is a Black woman. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is a Black woman. And it's okay to attack a Black woman if you're on the quote unquote wrong side. But if she had been a Democrat, it would have been protect Black women. Don't talk to her like that. Oh my God, this is racist. This is misogynistic. If he's the same color, they can't use racist, so they, misogynistic. This is that. So I just felt that, when you see stuff like this, it goes to the point of, is the Black community, and preferably Black women, are they really not a monolith? Because they're starting to look like a monolith if you don't acquiesce to the liberals.
Yeah.
What you think?
I mean, I agree. I mean, a lot of the same type of, attitude and energy that, she's seeing and getting, that's a lot of the stuff that I see and get all the time, like, again, this is over since I started publicly posting about my feelings in 2019, 2020-ish. And literally people from high school, family members, everybody. I've had my manager at work before tell me that she saw me on YouTube and that was an issue. It's just it really does seem like, and I've said this before, it seems like you just said, if you don't acquiesce and agree to and just bow down to whatever the mass of Black people agree with, you're automatically against Black people as a whole. And it's just it's showing. And I'm trying to understand, really, I know what the media is trying to do, but I'm trying to understand from someone intellectual, how can anybody see stuff like that and still be oh, this is a positive, this. I just, there's nothing cognitive, there's nothing actual concrete going on in these conversations. It's literally, like you said, this is just emotional bashing. This is a whole bunch of grown adults who, again, are raising children. These are people that are working in our society every day, and I'm supposed to put my life into your hands, but because I don't agree with what you're saying, now all of a sudden anything I say is wrong and incorrect or based out of hate. And it's just why can't y'all just it just seems like there's no critical thinking happening. Nobody's
there's none
having
Can I tell you, there's none. There's none.
I'm not seeing it.
There's none at all, because there's no way you can say that the Democratic Party is for Black people, or anybody for that matter, other than, I don't know, the corporations, but specifically Black people, when they never do what they say they're going to do. Every year since I've been able to vote, I will watch them say year in, year out what they're going to do, and I never see it. I haven't seen one thing. And it's always, if they do the thing that they said they were going to do, it benefits everybody.
Oh yeah. Or
it's all encompass.
there's always some stipulation on the help that somehow ends up going to all of the American people, or some faulty something, the student loan debt. Somehow you can have billions of dollars to send aid to Russia, to Ukraine, and all these, Israel, and all these other things, but you don't have the money to cancel student loan debt like you said you would. So now we just have to be okay with per you, even though some people say they personally don't know anybody that got this relief, but apparently there's a couple 100,000, maybe 500,000 Americans that got this debt relief, or
right. That's a drop in the bucket. Even if so, let's say it is, right. That's a drop in the bucket compared to
it's
what it is, and it's mostly Black women. A lot of Black women have debt. Women in general have most of the student loan debt, but Black women have a large portion of it. So like,
because when we get bored, we go to school to get a degree.
Yeah.
Like, literally, when I tell you, I see posts sometimes that are literally like, don't know what else I'm gonna do with my life. Guess I'll go back to school and get a degree.
I
Like, they're
definitely have seen
really
that.
doing this because it's like, and when you think about it, like I said, if you don't have any passions, like you have your passion for the entertainment industry and you have found your niche and what you want to do. I
Right.
have found my niche in medicine and in science and things like that. I don't believe majority of people have that. I don't believe that they know their passions, that they even have a passion, that they have an interest that they could see themselves pursuing in a career field, which is why, like, I had went viral one time and it kind of got a little messy because I was asking the girls like the last time they had been in a relationship with a man who was in a career and not just had a job. And a whole bunch of girls were like, who are you to say what's a job and what's a career? How dare you judge? And I was
Because
just
there's
like,
a difference.
and so that's what I'm saying. So I literally dropped the Webster's that I'm literally like, there is a clear-cut difference between having a job and having a career. There's a difference. And if you understand the difference, you understand what I'm talking about. And I was trying to get it to a deeper level, but it just showed me, like, again, like, even with that, it's like, why are y'all so if you're saying you are comfortable in this position and this is what you want to do, why are you so pressed if someone is saying, no, you have a job, not a career? Like, that's okay, but there is a difference, And I just think that, nobody's pressuring them because they don't know what to ask. Like, they don't really have, again, if you don't have any like goals or long-term, aspirations for yourself, how could you pressure somebody and make them like, show you what they're going to do for you, or you're just going to take whatever they give you face value by because
That's the problem.
you
But
know
I really believe that's one of the problems. Like, one of the problems that I have right now with the whole vote for Kamala. I mean, I wasn't voting for her anyway because I know her record. But let's just say I wanted to vote for her, right? One, she doesn't have any policies up on that site. I've been checking that site since, what, it's 4 weeks now? Nothing. Had this been Donald Trump, hell, had this been Joe Biden, they would have been on him. Okay.
Yeah.
She doesn't have anything up there. She doesn't talk about anything at the rally. She doesn't do any interviews. She don't come outside, so I'm just like, oh, why would I like her? And then two, she panders using her quote unquote race, but she hasn't said anything that she's specifically going to do. Right.
Because
And then
they don't care. It's like an Obama
right.
thing. They want representation, and that's it. Like, as long as we've got the representation, that seems to be all they care about. Like, as long as there's a black or brown face, that's that we made it, and that is like the congratulatory thing. And it's just like, what after that? Because again, Obama didn't do anything for us specifically, so it's like, what again could she do then? Because if the black man couldn't do anything, what is the black woman supposed to do? Like, I'm trying to, and using their words of, calling her a black woman because you want to, what is she supposed to do if the black man who was president that was supposed to, make a change and all these things, what is she supposed to do? Especially when, like you said, she has not said anything. Looked on the same website, there's nothing there. Like, they just have that Kamala
donate.
project, her little
Donate.
her little initiative, and that's it. And it's still, again, like, even that's what I'm saying, even when you read those policies, she has her own plan and initiative. And one of her initiative plans, obviously it's like backed by the Biden plan, but it's to tax the point, and it says this, to tax the 0.01% of Americans who are the multimillionaire billionaires at a level to where they're going to be closing the gap for the middle class and the poor. So they want to tax them at a higher rate so that they can close the gap. And I'm like, I just find that so funny that everybody talks about wanting generational wealth and wanting to have all these things, but
you want to take from the rich.
You basically want to take from
So I'm like, so what happens when you get there?
And that's what I'm saying. It's like, so are y'all thinking about like long term? Because if that really is who you want it to be, why would you vote for a party? And again, when we're thinking about 0.01, why would you even want to tax?
You're not going to get anything out of that, though.
And that's what I'm saying.
See, I think they play, well, I know they play on their ignorance, but especially when it comes to finances and business, right?
Yeah.
Most, if you're not savvy in those fields, then you don't know how it works, right? And if you have a business and you are the CEO, the founder, things like that, you're going to be always looking for ways to keep costs down.
Right.
Period. I don't even care if you have a small business. You're always looking for ways to keep costs down. And the way a lot of the corporations are doing it now is with AI and robots. Like Amazon laid off so many people. Like it was so many people that knew like they could just leave their job because they can go get a job at Amazon. It was like $30-$40 an hour, you know?
Yeah.
But now you can't even do that because Amazon has tons of robots in there picking up stuff that takes you hours to do all day. They can do multiple of that and 10 times the weight. So I'm just like, you guys are not really looking at that. The minimum wage, they're arguing about that, especially in California, right? They're arguing a $50 minimum wage to match California. I'm like, it's because the taxes, the inflation in California alone, just is out of whack, right? And you're not going to fix it by raising minimum wage, especially when California is leading in AI technology, where most of the McDonald's and just the smaller things.
Yeah, Target, like CVS, I've seen like they don't even have like the humans and like I don't know if it's CVS or Walgreens, but you go in there now, there's nobody, there's no registers. Like they completely removed all the registers and it's just self-checkout lines. Same with like Five and Below. I don't know if you've been to Five and Below, but they literally took away there's like 1 or 2 cash registers and everything else is just self-checkout.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh.
Yeah, because that's the way it's going, right? So when you look at the liberals and what they're telling Black women, right? It's outdated, one. And then two, it's not going to benefit them, right? And honestly, if we're being honest, I really don't like that liberals are really dishonest with women, especially Black women, right? Because most of the agendas that get tacked on about women, Black women really never had an issue with to begin with, right? When you look at the Black families during the time of the first feminist wave, Black families weren't intact. They were all coming out of slavery. They a lot of them knew how to cultivate the land because they knew about agriculture because of course you're coming from being slaves. The daddy sharecropper. You get what I'm saying? So they had trades that were able to be utilized to make money from. And so when you look at that, it was just like they were being subjugated and segregated, but there's no direct correlation to where Black women needed to hop on the feminist wave.
And now it's like it's completely taken over, our side of our side of the conversation now is the face of this movement now, when it was like
right. But that's
y'all don't see white women leaving their
yes, and that's the problem.
Like, they might talk shit about their men, they might
and they're right there,
but they're not leaving
their men,
and
they're right there.
And I feel like it's not to say like there aren't like single moms in every race or demographic, because like we know that, but it's just like socially I don't think, so I feel like, you can be objective and see that socially we see that the Black and brown community, it just seems more so like either there's nothing wrong with it or it's more so a trophy of like, yeah, girl, you're strong for doing it. And it's like, you don't see that, or at least in my opinion, like when I see like white women that are baby mamas and stuff like that I work with, they literally, we had a conversation one time and they were like, am I a baby mama? And I was just like, unfortunately. And it's just like, it's funny because it's like they don't even like look at themselves that way. They don't like they look at themselves as like single mothers, and like they just like try
Well,
to.
that's where the term actually came from, right? When they started to be, women with these babies, it turned from derogatory to single mothers. That's where that term actually came from.
Yes. Yeah. And I talked to them because I'm like, so, I mean, do y'all feel it's derogatory? Like, how do you feel about your situation? And they'll be like, oh, you don't know. I know I fucked my kid's life up. It's unfortunate, like I feel like it's more so, like we laugh it off, obviously, but it's like they understand, at least like when I can have conversations with like white women that are single mothers, and the conversation just goes
They
different.
know it's
It's like, it's like literally they'll say, no, yeah, I definitely fucked up, didn't listen to daddy, should have listened, like here I am. It's kind of like they know, and it's like, we're just moving forward from that point. But when it comes to Black women, we can't even get that part of the accountability of just saying, no, you weren't doing what you were supposed to do. Can you just admit and just be, upfront and adult,
no,
and just say,
you can't. I say this all the time. Who can check them?
Nobody. We can't even.
That's why I said who can check them. That's why I said
nobody.
them, because you are inside and you still can't do it.
Yeah,
you get what I'm saying. So it's like,
I hate Black women. So
yeah, like you can't correct something that you can't check, right? If your children are acting out of order, you check it, and then they take accountability, and then you talk about how you can do it better. But if you can't check them and you can't never say anything, you can't judge, can't do this, then it stays that way. And then if it stays that way, everybody gets lumped in, right? It's to the point now, if probably a Black or Hispanic mom is out with their children just by themselves, not the fact that she's a single mom, but she's going to get lumped in as such, to where you see a soccer mom get out the car with her 1,001 children out of that van. You don't think the same.
Yeah.
You say, oh, the husband's probably at work, and she has the kids. And that's because socially they straddle the fence, right? And that's why I say it doesn't pay Black women to take on that whole trope of feminism and everything like that, because again, the whole monolith thing comes in. You say we're not a monolith, but they get to be on two sides. White women are conservative and liberal.
Yeah.
They get to want to fight for women to be in the forefront, and they get to go be trad wives.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you only get to be strong, and then if you are like me or Cam, you are a pick me. Okay, I have come to the realization that I am a pick me.
That's fine. We'll take it. It's not an insult.
I'm just gonna start putting it up at the top. Just gonna put pick me Mika, because I mean, that's the first thing that they go at, and you're pick me. I'm like, okay.
All you do is for male validation.
Meanwhile, everything that you're doing, you're on social media, you dress a certain way, you do this, you do that, and it's for male validation. Like, you want a man. If you didn't want one, you wouldn't communicate with them. You wouldn't be on social media because you don't care if they're looking at your pictures or not. Like, it's a delusion, right? Absolutely. But it all of it boils back into the delusion of the liberal agenda, because they keep you single, they keep you struggling. Meanwhile, they get to straddle the fence and play both sides, which is what every other group in this country does, except for Black women. They can only think one way. They can only want one thing. If you don't like, I don't have a problem with the ratchet music, right? Because it's expression. I'm okay with creativity. But the problem is, if you don't like it, right, then you don't like Black people. You don't like Black culture. Ratchetness is only Black culture. What happened to all of a sudden when Beyonce comes out now country music is Black culture. Well, it's been part of Black culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but I remember when Hootie and the Blowfish was doing it. Oh, they want to be white.
Yeah.
It's like what? Like no. Like country music has been a very much part of Black culture, if not Black. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I'm just like the certain things that the liberal agenda sets up for Black women it doesn't do them any justice.
No.
I wanted to get into the last topic of course, Kamala Harris.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Kamala Harris, if you don't know, which I know all of you guys know, but Kamala Harris is running for vice president. I'm sorry, is running for president. She's currently the vice president. And that in itself, to me, is a travesty because they kind of invoked the 25th Amendment without invoking the 25th Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little curious as to how that happens, because they didn't get him out because of incompetency, but he can't run the campaign because of incompetency. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But again, their voting base is going to go along with it. So let it happen. They'll see how that pans out later when they start doing that a lot. But the whole thing that I have like the biggest issue with is, again, she doesn't have any policies, but one of the things that she keeps talking about that I at least know that she does is the whole women's rights. And women's rights bothers me because what rights don't we have, right? I can vote, I can drive, I can speak what I want to, I can work any job, and apparently Black women have all the jobs, right? So what right don't we have to do? Most of the courts will favor the women. So what is women's rights really, right? And when I listen to it, it boils down to reproduction.
Yes.
Or I'm just like, okay, so why not talk about that? Because they know when they talk about that on its face, it's not very conducive to women in general, because what they're talking about is the degradation of families.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I wanted to get your take on that and what you thought about reproductive rights.
So, for me, I have struggled over the years with my position on reproductive rights, but I've come to the conclusion that I gravitate more towards pro-life. I just can't get with the ideology that goes behind reproductive rights and the movement behind it. When I have these conversations and we hear, the conversations of politicians that are pro-choice or pro-abortion and things like that, it's coming, in my opinion, from a selfish point of view, and more so from like a retroactive approach. It's kind of like, let's put the fire out now, instead of, in my opinion, as a pro-lifer, it's being proactive and making sure that you don't have to get to a point where you have to make a decision like that. But if it does get to that point, I believe that in my heart, if you're going to tell a man that he should man up and take responsibility for his seed that he chose to make, as a woman, you should woman up and take that responsibility as well and be that parent that child needs. Now, when you talk to somebody that's pro-choice, they will say then, well, are you going to help the mother? So you want the baby to be in foster care. So you want the baby to be in these horrible conditions. And then I throw it back at them because I'm like, well, why does it have to be that? Why can't it be, again, the proactive conversation? But if we are going to have the conversation of these people, then nobody's forcing you to have a child. And that's kind of like, they just lose me, because I feel like there are so many things as women that we can do pre-positive pregnancy tests. And even still past that point, if you knew your body, you would still be able to get the assistance or be able to handle that situation how you would want to handle it if you knew your body. But then that's the other caveat, is that when we have these things like the Roe versus Wade being overturned, nobody looked at the fact that they didn't say no abortions ever. They said after 6 weeks it's done, you can't do it anymore. But when you talk to women, you don't even know you're pregnant till after 8 weeks plus. No, babe, you just don't know you're
and that's straight
you
lie.
didn't know you were
Yeah.
pregnant, you know?
And they know.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just like, I think it's a lot of ignorance. I think it's a lot of just a band-aid, and again, kind of like a retroactive approach to an moment, and a moment of you know what, like lack of judgment, just all of those things. And I don't think that, you know, people will we good? Oh, it's on mute.
Yeah, it went out for some reason, but you can go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I can clip it, but go ahead.
Okay. But yeah, like, you know, just women, when we have these conversations, they always go into the legalities of what they feel like life is and what that means for them. And it's just like, it's not about a feelings thing. We all understand. It's just crazy to me that we can all understand how a child is made. We know sperm meets egg, that's life. But all of a sudden, when it comes to the conversation of reproductive rights and abortion, now it's not a baby until it takes its first breath. And I don't understand that mindset. Like, I have never been able to understand that. It's like, so the whole time you're growing the baby, the whole time you're going to these appointments, the whole time you're hearing a heartbeat, none of that's real until it takes its first breath. So anything that happens from that point on, that's okay. You know, I've talked to people that are pro, you know, late term abortions. Like, they feel like no matter when she decides she don't want the baby, she should be able to make that decision because it's her body, her choice. I don't think it's her body, her choice, because we're not making a decision about our bodies. Our body,
Right.
And it is just like, the women will say it's unfortunate, but I'm like, I'm not a mother, but you know, I feel like that's the gift that we were given to be that vessel. And it seems like now, I believe most women really did not want their children, and they kind of just had their children because they felt like they had to, whatever reason that was. And now they have this, like, this vitriol and this hate towards motherhood, this resentment towards motherhood. And it's just like, I mean, I don't know.
No, you're absolutely correct. Most women
you know,
most women that I know, they can't wait. Why does it keep going out? I don't know why it keeps going out.
the signal don't like us. Okay.
I don't know. But I remember what I was saying.
Yeah.
Most women that I know that have children, they don't really like their children. Like, they may love their children, but they don't really like their children. They feel like their children got in the way of something. Sometimes it's, they don't like the father, so they don't really want the children, but they're here, so they can't really get rid of them.
Yeah.
So it's that, they resent that maybe the male left, and they're quote unquote stuck with the children. Some have babies to keep men, and all kinds of things, right? And I feel like at the end of the day, my grandmother used to always tell me, no matter what, have children because you want them, right? Because no matter what happens, you're still the mom. So I feel like most women have babies on one of those circumstances instead of them really wanting the baby, because you have to carry it. So with that, if you have to carry something, and especially for basically a year, I would figure you would really want what you're going to have to carry.
You would think.
It makes no sense. Like, and then women talk about the the superficial of having a baby. You can get stretch marks, you can get fat, you can all this other stuff. So then why do it Or why not prevent it if you know these are all the things that can happen? There's plenty of generations, right, to look at. There's plenty of women to look at. You know all these things can happen and you still do it.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you can do all these preventative measures. And I mean, females or women have all of these birth control methods. How do you get to abortion?
I mean,
How do you get to late term abortion? Because okay, let's say you want to get an abortion. Cool. Why are we waiting till 9 months? Why are we waiting till 6, 7 months? Like, what were you doing the other months?
like I don't and that's what I'm saying, like, and again, you never hear like solutions about like, so you know, I've heard people say like, okay, well, what about adoption or things like that? And I'm just like, if a woman is contemplating, in my mind, if she's contemplating abortion, she doesn't want to give birth. The idea is that she doesn't want to go through with it to get to the birth part of it. So even, you know, I would give you that idea if that's what, you know, you were like, okay, well, no, I don't want the kid, but, you know, at least I'll have him and give him up for adoption to give him a better chance at a better life. They don't want to do that. They want to not have the pregnancy. And, you know, again, I feel like use use abortions as the birth control, which is why I believe that, you know, the government started to take such heavy reins on it in the first place, because when we have these conversations, women will always try and use the extreme cases of, you know,
The mother dying,
incest victims, you know, sexual assault victims, things like this, women that have pregnancies that aren't able to medically be able to come to term and things like that. That's
right,
not the majority of women that are walking
right,
into offices of Planned Parenthood and stuff to get abortions. It's women that are literally had moments. They're in situationships and they're having children, doing sex incorrectly, doing sex unprotected and recklessly, and getting
basically being
pregnant. Like,
yeah.
and so
Right.
it's just like, you know, I don't know. I just think that as women, we should be advocating for our bodies in a way that, if you know that we're the ones that carry the baby. So to me, that just means I'm the one that should be taking all the precautions and making sure that my body is protected and that I'm okay. So I just think that if you're doing anything opposite of that, you're not protecting yourself, and you are, if not trying to get pregnant. I mean, I don't know what else you would call it, because it's like, I mean, again, we all know how babies are made, and it just seems like people kind of have this like, oh, you know, it happens type of idea when it comes to reproduction. It's like it should be taken so much more serious than that. Especially when, you know, it's happening in legislation, and, you know, people are advocating for the right to be able to do something like this when there is no medical concerns and stuff like that. Because for me, I feel like we could even, you know, have the conversation about why don't these women advocate for abortion only for, you know, these victims of sexual assault or victims of, you know, medical emergencies and things like that. Why aren't you just advocating for them? Because, you know, you want to be able to use that right too, but you want
Yes.
to be able to use the right for
And
stuff that has nothing
goes
to do
back to
with
the
that.
liberal agenda of
Exactly.
encompassing
Exactly.
everything. And that's
Exactly.
exactly what I'm saying, because my stance on abortion is, yeah, if you know, I understand that you're not going to stop people from getting them, right? But I do think it should be a limit.
Mhm.
And to me, the 6 weeks was fine, right? Because you're not so far along at 6 weeks to where most things are forming now. We do know after 4 weeks, you know, you pretty much have a heartbeat.
Mhm.
And to me, if it's medical, because you're in the medical field, right? So when your heart stops, right, that's when you're considered dead. But if you have a heartbeat, you're considered alive. So I don't understand why, if the baby has a heartbeat, why is it not considered alive? Like, it is literally alive. So yeah, that 4 to 6 week period, that would be a cutoff for me.
Yeah.
Because like now you're getting into, you know, the brain forming and organs, and so that would be my cutoff, and that would be the law if, I was running that. But I understand that they're not going to, let that go. But there are, exceptions that we should take into account, like, ectopic pregnancies, and because those can kill you.
Right.
I would say yes, with incest and other nefarious things. But outside of that, why? You have so many birth control methods. Plan B, you have female condoms. I mean, it's so much stuff. Like, if you just Google the stuff, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many things that you can use. Because for the life of me, I see a lot of women online, especially in our generation. They don't like condoms and things like that. Whatever.
And that's what I'm
But
saying. Like, you can't say stuff like that and then be mad about what's coming with that lifestyle if you're moving like that. Like,
but the liberal culture now, to me, makes having babies cute.
yes, absolutely.
And the rapper baby mamas make having a baby daddy cute. So when you add all that together, it becomes I'm okay if that happens, or I want that. I got a cute boyfriend, or whoever I like, and if we have a baby, we have a baby.
Yeah.
So I wanted to touch on this video really quick by Angela, because she kind of really touched on like all of these factors, and she's a conservative, and she's always been talking about this point. But because it's becoming such a prominent thing now, especially with Kamala running, it's coming back up. So she did an interview and she really spoke to this point with Kamala. So I'm going to play that really quick.
We do these people a favor when we terminate Black life.
The internet has been ablaze with video after video of people criticizing Kamala Harris, accusing her of not being for Black people, right? And the question I have is that, like, why do so many people still believe because a person has Black skin, they're for Black people?
I for the life of me, I can't get this. This is like, Obama all over again. And I'll be honest, I think the reason is because we're emotional, right? We're not fact-based. We're more based off of emotion. We're in a day and age where people are more concerned about the racism that they're never going to be able to rid, right? Than they are about the pedophilia that's sleeping itself through our government, right? That's an issue for me. And I think that when you ask people what type of policy is Kamala Harris running on, they can't say anything. The only reason they want to vote for her is because she's Black. And then what gets me is, you're telling me that I'm supposed to choose this woman just because she's Black. Well, everybody's pro-Black until it's time to marry and procreate, right? She didn't choose Black when it was time for her to preserve the Black family, but I'm supposed to believe that I'm supposed to choose Black for her to preserve the Black family in the White House. We're not doing that. If she didn't have to choose Black, then we don't have to choose Black either. So we need to get off of this whole thing. Oh, they're just going to do something for us because they're Black. Well, maybe if she would have picked a Black man or had a Black kid, I probably could support that. But the fact that you are on an HBCU tour telling young Black women to abort their children while you're raising white children, that's the issue for me. That should be an issue for Black America, because y'all remember back in the day of slavery, we couldn't keep our kids, but you'll see them white kids sucking Nana titties, getting breastfed. Yeah, we're not going to abort our children and raise theirs.
What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, I agree with her. I mean, that's literally the sentiment that I share. I mean, that was a great point about, pro-Black. Everybody's pro-Black until it's time to be pro-Black. I agree with that 100%. Any of these Black people, most of them are not married and have a family behind them, you know? So, you know, I agree. It's like, it's a lot of talk from a lot of loud mouths, but they're not really saying a lot of anything. And again, if you're not being the example that you're preaching about and that you say you support so much, it should fall on deaf ears, because it's like, if you're not even, you know, advocating in your real life for what you say you believe in, how can you say these things? You know, just like when women will try and come at me about certain things when it comes to abortion rights or children. Well, I can tell you, I haven't had to make any of those decisions for myself personally, and that's why I speak the way that I do, because I wouldn't say certain things if it wasn't a personal choice and experience of mine that I was doing the opposite. And so I just think that if more people kind of live their lives in real life by what they believe, we would be getting better outcomes in our community and as a country as a whole. But that's kind of what we're seeing, is people, you know, advocating and saying they believe one thing, but then they're moving a different way in their real life, you know? So
that's the whole thing I hate about with, you know, the whole celebrity culture, right? So a lot of women, you know, in the liberal agenda movement, they like having the songs of, you know, single ladies and all of those type of songs. But when you look at it, none of those women that sing any of those songs are single. All of those women have children, or at least want children, right? All of them want to be married or are married, have families, things like that. So I just look at it on that side, that they push one thing while they get to be something else behind doors. The same with Kamala, as she said. Okay, she's supposed to be the Black lady, but she hasn't done anything for other Black women, and she doesn't have any, you know, any like investment with Black anything.
She in a sorority. That's all you need. Apparently, all you need is a sorority, and that is her.
But the crazy part with the sorority, if you even look into the history of the sorority she's a part of, they have a strong history of, I guess you can call it racism or colorism, however you want to, you know, structure it. But a lot of them were involved in the paper bag test. A lot of them were only allowing mulattoes and mixed race women to be a part of that sorority. So, which is, and you still look today, a lot of the
most AKAs
women, a lot of the darker skinned women are what, Deltas? That's why. Right, but nobody brings that point up ever, right? They're just like, oh yeah, it's Black. Okay, yeah, there's a difference.
And I go to a HBCU. You definitely can tell the difference. Like the Deltas seem like more of like the aggressive, more of like the, you know, rougher around edges. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
They have all the,
even how they do their steps is different.
That's why I say they have all the,
you know, like the dainty, cute, pretty girls and stuff. So yeah, you definitely see the difference. Absolutely,
right. And they don't want to speak to that point. And Kamala fits right into that. Right. Yeah. She's the fairer, because most Indians are brown to darker. You know, and she's the fairer Indian, right? She has the quote unquote, you know, how they say the nice silky hair.
Yeah.
And, you know, she fits perfectly what people in the Black community a lot of the times will deem as the acceptable Black. The same with Barack Obama. You know, he's the light-skinned guy with the nice wavy hair, you know. So at the end of the day, they're perpetuating the same thing that they said that they don't want from the quote unquote conservative side, you know, racism or, you know, prejudice and, you know, picking one way over another. Well, you're doing that exactly. You're just doing it covertly.
Yeah.
Like you're doing it with Kamala, you did it with Barack Obama, you did it with Joe Biden, because Charlemagne allowed a whole white man to sit there and tell him he wasn't Black.
Charlemagne makes me upset. He makes me upset so much. He puts pressure on only people that he disagrees with and doesn't agree with, but he never gives that same energy and puts that same pressure on the people that he should be putting and giving that energy to. It's annoying. And he has
Yeah.
such a big platform that it's like you doing a disservice, but it's like I
And it's crazy because the comments call it out all the time, which
yeah, yep.
the
And
comments,
I love that.
like
Yep.
white or black, the comments be commenting. Okay.
Mhm.
And they call it out because he allowed Hillary Clinton to do it. When she said, "Is it working?" I wish Hillary Clinton would have asked me that. What you mean, is your pandering working? Like, what, ma'am? Right? If that was Donald Trump, if he had said to Aiden or anybody he went on, if he had said that, it would have been front page and all this other stuff. But the liberals are allowed to say and do what they want, and I think it goes unchecked, especially from Black women. And now with I'll say this with our wrap up here, in the last 5 minutes, the emergence of Kamala, right? Because Kamala was here 5 so years ago and they didn't want her, right?
Yep.
They could have easily just slotted the Black lady in, right?
And voted her for president. I feel like people forget that. Like, did y'all forget she ran for president? Or
you're like, this is our time to have a Black woman. I'm like, you could have put the Black lady in. Why didn't you do it then? Because you didn't like any of her policies and you were like, no. And you were still running off of Barack Obama, and so you wanted to run behind Joe Biden. I get it. However, it showed that this woman wasn't qualified because you could have easily did it there. You didn't have to do the switcheroo like you had to do this time. You could have just put her in. She wasn't qualified then, and you knew it, right? And then I also feel like Black women, and I know a lot of people follow the 1 drop rule and all this other stuff, but I feel like a lot of the times in the Democratic Party, Black women are actually overlooked, meaning you're unambiguous, non-mixed Black women, right? You had Stacey Abrams do all of that work and she got overlooked twice.
Yep.
And then they had the nerve to have her at Kamala's rally in Atlanta, talking again, fundraising again. Yeah, and she'll keep doing it, right? Because they say, well, she'll get her time, but y'all let Kamala come up out of nowhere. Why? Because there's to me there's a sense of self-hate there, right? There's a sense of self-hate. You think she fits in with what the others want to see, and I also think it's a sense of how they want to be represented. I think Stacey Abrams and other Black women, even on the right, when you talk about Black women who have been first, nobody ever talks about Condoleezza.
Yeah.
Why? Because to me, Condoleezza doesn't represent right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. That is an educated Black woman, regardless if you like that she's a conservative or not. Why didn't you lift her up?
Yeah. Because if you don't pander and actually like fit into and say what the general feels like you should, then it's like, no, we'll just X her out. Same with like Shahrazad Ali, like we nobody listened to her. They shamed her and called her crazy and all these things. It's like backdoor. Everything she said in the 80s and the 90s is true. And it's like all of it's coming to fruition just like she said it would. But she was, outcasted and, seen as like a hater for Black women. And it's just like, again, this is, somebody like an Anton who is like that example that she talks about. She is that woman that is showing y'all she has the Black family, the Black husband, and still, gets the pushback. So it just seems like to me, it seems like if you're doing the right thing, that's when you get the most hate and the pushback, and it's the opposite.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But I think what's happening now, I think conservatives are being able to move back in the front, especially conservatives of color. And I do mean people like Vivek. He's Indian, right? He's a person of color, but he's conservative. He makes great points, right? I just think it's making a bigger splash than it's made before, because I think people are tired of the liberal politics. But women as a whole, I think we have to really get back into reality, because I think for the last maybe probably all of my adult years, we've been not dealing in reality, and now it's come to a head. And I think the liberals are really taking advantage of it. And if you look at everything that's going on, all of the women that are homeless, all of the women that are tired, struggling, and like, if you go back to traditional values, you would never have none of these problems. It's not to say that you can't work, it's to say that you don't have to work. Like, you didn't have to, right? What women say they want, a choice, right?
Yeah.
And so the liberal mindset is, you gotta be strong, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And really, women just want to be women. And as Black women, I think we're setting ourselves up for failure if we keep staying on this train. So I'll let you have the last thought, if any.
Yeah, I feel like we kind of like wrapped it up together. It just seems like, unfortunately, I'm interested to see how this election is going to turn out. I'm interested to see how many people are just talk and how many of them are actually actual active voters and will actually show up. But I think that, we will get what we want. I'm hoping we get what we want in the end. So
I hope so. I mean, I think I'm
just
gonna be fine either way.
yeah.
But oh my
There's
God.
no community. I feel like times like this is just showing, there's no idea of like a real community, how like people say they want for us to have as like Black people and stuff like that. I just don't think it exists anymore. I think that it's just been dissipated, watered down, kind of broken so much so that it's kind of like you should just get in where you fit in with like-minded people and kind of just build your village or your community that way, because, trying to, do the identity politics and stick in with your race isn't and has not done anything for us. So, I just think that as people, if we want to get better and move up and, not stay in this victim mindset and mentality, it's about, connecting with like-minded people and, kind of just rising above, what the general is, staying down for.
Yep, I totally agree. And I'll say this, people can look at, just this podcast and look at, we agree on the same values, we agree on, certain policies. We literally can, you're brown skin, I'm light brown skin, like none of that matters when you are focused on a particular strategy and particular plan. Like it doesn't even matter. Your hair is straight right now, mine's curly. Who cares, right? All of that they play up, it doesn't matter, because that's not what's going to help us move forward. So I'm glad that we could come on here and show that there are Black women that women of color, whatever the politically correct term is. I don't know, because but I try.
Right.
But whatever you want to call it, that we actually have sense, that we do pay attention, and that we want more than what the liberal agenda says that we want, and we deserve a lot more. And so I want to thank you, Cam, for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Because I always like to have another conservative voice.
Yes, I'm always here.
I want to thank my guest, Cameron, for coming on. I really do appreciate you coming on, Cameron, and being able to have another conservative voice. I also want to thank everybody for tuning in. I want to thank everybody that supports the platform, like, share, subscribe. And also for all of you that have been asking, ways to support is right here. Officially Mika $, with the Cash App. Officially Mika $, okay? Again, this is the way to support. And I appreciate every last one of you. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. I'm out.